with the December 28th edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Again, this is the December 25th. No, let me try that again. December 28th, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball. Excuse me for that blunder there. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining. If you've never joined me before, my name is Phil S. Dixon. I come on and I give historic facts related to the Negro Baseball Leagues on a particular date. Of course, you know the date that we're talking about today. So I just wanted to jump right in here and thank everybody for joining. And so if you're picking this broadcast up later, go ahead and subscribe. If you are picking me up live, by all means, go ahead and subscribe. Let me know where you're listening from. All right. So without further ado, let's get busy. All right. So let's go to December 28th, 1910. Beauregard Mosely summoned baseball owners from Chicago to form a Negro National League consisting of the cities Chicago, Louisville, New Orleans, Mobile, down in Alabama, St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Columbus, Ohio. He also selected Kansas City's Felix Payne to serve as chairman of the league. All right. So this is one of the early attempts to organize a Negro National League in the West. All right. Somebody joining me from the Twin Cities. Thank you. Always love to hear people from Minnesota. All right. So, actually, they didn't have Minnesota in this formation. So that's kind of interesting because at that particular time, you had two very powerful teams in Minnesota, the Keystones, Minneapolis Keystones, and also the St. Paul Gophers. But that's interesting. Maybe that was an oversight on their part. But yeah, they had all these owners come together and they were going to form this league. It's kind of interesting. Felix Payne, who was the chairman, he was what we call the policy boss of Kansas City. He operated a policy wheel in both Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. And if most people, if you don't know what policy is, it's kind of like the lottery today. Matter of fact, it's not kind of like the lottery. It is. It's an illegal form of the lottery. And so Felix Payne is kind of interesting. Now, Beauregard Mosely is very interesting as well. I wrote a really long bio on him in my book, the 1910 Chicago Leland Giants, and part of my Great Team series, really long bio. He's a very interesting guy, was the primary backer of the Chicago Leland Giants after they incorporated. And when the team broke up and Frank Leland went on to start the Chicago Giants, Mosely stayed with Rube Foster and backed him in that final year, 1910, with the Chicago Leland Giants. So he had his hands in there, and he was a famous attorney. He had more white customers as an attorney than he did black people, if you can imagine that. So he was really famous around Chicago. Interesting thing, unfortunately, he passed away in 1919 from the pandemic that they had at that time, flu pandemic. And but before he passed away, I think this might have been 1918 or 17, he had left baseball, but he still owned the incorporation to the Leland Giants. So he changed the incorporation of the Chicago Leland Giants and put a new name on it, and it became the Idlewild Corporation. And it was part of a black resort that he was putting together up in Michigan. And of course, he passed away and never saw that come to fruition, but it did. It did after he passed away. And then also, his death was before 1920, so he never actually saw Rube Foster's Negro National League. But he was a great man. Just want to let you know about Beauregard Mosely and also Felix Payne. Felix Payne, I talked to his son years ago, and his son lived in Washington, D.C. So anyway, we're going to jump right on to this next thing. All right. Okay, and that was December 28, 1910. So we have December 28, 1949. The Hammer, as his nickname, Left-handed hitting infielder, outfielder John David Milner was born on this date in Atlanta, Georgia. They say he got his nickname, the Hammer, because he bore resemblance to Hank Aaron, and who was his childhood idol. So anyway, he played in about 1,200 major league games for several teams, mainly the Mets and the Pirates, and he logged 3,436 at bats. And he played important roles in two pennant-winning teams, the 1973 Mets and the 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates. You probably remember them. I remember, boy, well, that's the We Are Family team. Yeah, I know you remember that if you were around during that time. Interesting period in baseball. And of course, they came out with the retro hats going back with the little flat top and the little stripes. Yeah, now you can see those all over stores around Kansas City. Everybody was wearing that hat. It was just became a fashion statement as well as a baseball statement. So, yeah, and unfortunately, he passed away at the young age of 50 from cancer in the year 2000. Yeah, so never had a chance to actually meet Eddie Milner, but I certainly saw him play as a baseball player. So we lost him. And but he was born on this date, December 28th, 1949. All right, let's keep on going. December 28th, 1974, we lost another guy. And just so happens this guy passed away in my hometown. And this is Arkansas-born Kansas City Monarchs pitcher Booker T. McDaniel. He passed away in Kansas City, Kansas. And he played with the Monarchs. Most people know him from the Monarchs. Started in 1939 with the Monarchs' second team, and he later appeared in Cuba. He was instrumental in breaking the color barrier in the Pacific Coast League with the Los Angeles team. And, well, around Kansas City, Booker McDaniel was known pretty well after his baseball career. And I'm saying Kansas City. I should be saying Kansas City, Kansas, because he lived in the town where I was. So the house where he lived and knew where that house was. And actually, he lived in an apartment, him and his wife, with my mother-in-law. All right, how about that? Or I'll put it this way, it's my wife's grandmother. She's also passed away. But yeah, so I was able to get information about McDaniel from her before she passed away. And then also, I was talking to members of the Page family and Pamela O'Neill. We were talking about Booker because Booker was really good friends with Satchel Paige, and he would come by his house often. Him and his wife would come by. And the interesting thing about that is that Booker used to buy a new car every year. He worked at the Kansas City grain factory, and around here we have these big silos, and especially in Kansas City, Kansas, there were a couple of them. And so he would buy a new car every year. And most people, these are the kind of things that you almost have to be around these people to know. Now, I never had a chance to interview Booker. I did interview two of his brothers, and but I did not know him. But I knew many people who did know him, and so I was able to present this kind of information related to Booker. Okay, so thought you might enjoy that. A new car every year. And I remember people doing that. Maybe you remember some people who used to buy a new car every year. That was a thing. And you wonder how Detroit stayed so famous. Cars didn't cost as much as they do now. So people would do that. They buy a new one, trade that old one in, and keep rolling. All right, and that was a thing. I know another guy in my neighborhood lived down the street from me, and he worked I think he worked at General Motors. No, he worked for the railroad. And he also bought a new car every year. Richard Davis was his name. All right, no baseball related content, but yeah, he had a new car every year as a little kid. We were pretty impressed about that, watching that back in the 1960s. All right, so I only have one more. I just want to get out here early today, but I do want to thank everybody who's been supporting me and everyone who's been making comments and following this broadcast and learning and hearing my stories related to these ball players. I guarantee you, And I can't say that I can guarantee much, but I can say this: you will get more stories here from 45 years I've had in keeping this history than you will get anywhere else. Just know that. And there are people out there who they're saying, oh, they're the greatest storyteller in Negro League baseball and all that. But guess what? I'm probably one of the most genuine storytellers because I actually met many of these people and conducted lots of interviews, lots of interviews. I always say that I interviewed over 500 people, but when I think about it, it's way more. And I'm still interviewing people. I just started the other day. I just talked to. There's a pitcher by the name of Eddie Locke. You can look him up. I just talked to his daughter, and they're not talking about Eddie Locke much either. I just talked to his daughter, and most people don't interview her, and so we're going to present some information on Eddie Locke too. So we're working on that as well. So I'm still interviewing and still presenting. So I'm looking forward to going out in 2026 and continuing this legacy of talking about the Negro Leagues in towns all over America. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to the Twin Cities. How about that? All right. So let's get this one more, and this is a guy who let's see. He passed away. This name was Harry Else. Okay, he passed away in San Diego, California on December the 28th, 1986. And he was 80 years old, so he lived a full life. And he came to the Monarchs in 1935, and then he went away for a little while. Then he came back to the Monarchs in 1938, and he was one of 5 catchers that the Monarchs used that year. And so I could probably name all 5 too. And after starting the 1938 season with the Palmer House Hotel team. Now, Palmer House was the champion team of Illinois, and they would go down and they would play in the Denver tournament as the champion, right? So the Palmer House Hotel, and I have a great picture of the Palmer House team. I don't think I've ever released it, and here's the reason why I've never used that photograph. It was given to me by Palmer Wiggins, and Palmer, he would periodically maybe lend a photograph to like a newspaper, somebody passed away or something like that. Well, instead of sending the whole photograph, he would actually cut the person's picture out the photograph and then send it forward. And sometimes it didn't come back. So I have this picture of the Palmer House team, and one guy is like cut out, and I don't know who the guy he cut out, but it's a great picture of the Palmer House team. And Jack Marshall played for the Palmer House. So quite a few people suited up for the Palmer House team. And the Palmer House was a famous hotel in Chicago, and I think Palmer House is still there. And I'm almost sure it's still there. I need to make another trip to Chicago. Maybe next time in, maybe I'll stay at the Palmer House. We'll see what happens, all right? So anyway, Harry Else, he had been a member of the Monroe Monarchs in 1935 before he came. And at the 1935 Denver Post tournament where they appeared, I know John Buck O'Neill told me that's where he met Harry Else. And of course, he knew Harry Else later on. And interesting game. Let's go. On August 28, 1938, Else, Willie Brown, and Chili Mayweather all homered in the second game of a doubleheader in Chicago against the American Giants. And all of those people, I remember Willie Brown very well because I knew his wife. Actually, I spoke at his wife's funeral. So I knew Willie very well and had talked to him on numerous occasions. Of course, he ended up in the Hall of Fame. Willard Sonny Brown and Chili Mayweather. His widow was also around here in Kansas City, and I got a chance to talk to her and her daughter. And so I have a nice file on Chili Mayweather, who became a World War II veteran, just like Willie Brown was, World War II veteran. I don't know if Else ever served in the military. Now, an interesting thing, when I was looking for Else back in the early 1980s, I was looking for him, couldn't find him. and he was rumored to be around Chicago, but he had been a former insurance man, and so he sold life insurance, and this is before he headed out to California. So I was looking for him around Chicago, and it was people who told me, say, hey, I remember seeing else the last time I saw him, he was selling life insurance. This was the former players who were telling me Double Duty Radcliffe was up there, uh, McKinnis was up there, and Subby Bias. Who else I interviewed? Man, Chicago used to have a lot of people. Shug Cornelius interviewed him. Jimmy Crutchfield. So they all knew this guy was selling insurance. What they didn't know is when he left Chicago and went out to California. So, yeah, that's Harry Else, who passed away on this date, December 28th, 1986. So, guys, we're almost to the end of this year, and I want to thank you all for your support. You've been amazing. And we're trying to build up our subscribers. We're going for the magic number 500 next. So if you pick up this broadcast anywhere along the way, go ahead and subscribe. All right, I appreciate you very much. And we're gonna have just a couple more days to look at some of this sports history, and then we're gonna go into 2026. And I guarantee you, I'm gonna bring more fire in 2026 than I have in 2025, because as I become more comfortable, and I'm going to use less notes and just let my mind flow. So I appreciate you. I really do. And I love you all, guys. And I love this history. Hopefully you can tell that. And I always tell people, I don't get paid per se for doing this. I sell books and I make personal appearances. But for years, I didn't do any of that. I just researched, went to the library, and was at the library all the time. Back in the days when they didn't have newspaper online, you had to actually physically go to the library, and that's what I did. That's what I did to find this history. And then the other thing is, I went to ball players' homes. I would get in my car and I would travel around. If there was a ball player that I could get to, where I could do a personal interview, where I could meet them, and that helped me understand this history so much more. And of course, being a young African American, many of these ball players took me under their wings, and they shared things with me that they typically didn't share with other people, especially regarding racism and segregation and all the prejudice that they had faced in their lifetime through not only in baseball, but many times in their jobs and things they had fought for in their communities. It's been a great run, and so I'm glad that I can tell these stories, and I will be here, believe it or not. This would be 46 years. I'm starting my 46th year when it comes in January of telling this history, guys. That's amazing to me. 46 years, and I can say that the best years of my youth were spent following baseball and working to preserve the history of the Negro Leagues. And that's one of the reasons you have a Negro Leagues baseball museum in Kansas City. Yeah, I know you hear about Buck O'Neill's name and his contribution to it. You don't see Phil Dixon's name anywhere on the museum, but believe me, there wouldn't be a museum in Kansas City without Phil Dixon. That may sound arrogant, guys, but you can bank on it. All right, guys, that does it for me, buddies. And I appreciate it. Somebody says, thanks, Phil, for your awesome live stream. Thank you for your tremendous support. I appreciate that very much. And what I'm going to do is close this one out. And join me. We've got the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. We got 3 more days of my 45th year as a baseball historian. I don't think I'm going to reach back and try to find something that's a totally unique story, or a couple of unique stories for every day, the rest of the way out. So be sure and catch it live. If you don't, catch the rebroadcast, and I guarantee you we're going to make it fun. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to you joining me soon. Have a nice day. Bye.